It is a Tuesday. It is great to have you in. We are live in Los Angeles. This is The Hurt, wherever you may be and however you may be watching or listening. Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, FS1. I have got so many things to talk about today. So I live now by myself for 3 weeks. All I do is sit around and come up with conspiracy theories and watch sports. Joy Taylor is joining me today. Joy looks ravishing. How are you, Joy?
Thank you. As long as you're not, getting your tinfoil hat out. You're not a big conspiracy. You are a big theory person, but not with so much the conspiracy.
I keep the con out of my theories. I'll be on Joy's podcast later today, by the way.
Yes, yeah. Go subscribe because you're not going to want to miss it.
Right now. So let me start. I want to talk about ego. I, of course, do not have one, but let's discuss it. Story today, Mike Silver, NFL reporter guy. NFL Network reports 1/3 of the NFL has called the Seattle Seahawks about Russell Wilson. The starting point is 3 first-round picks. This, of course, would not happen unless teams felt Russell Wilson is available. This is now the 4th story in 3 weeks leaking about Russell Wilson being unhappy. Isn't the rule in the NFL, when your quarterback is great and in his prime, just make him happy? New England forgot about that. Now they stink and Brady's winning Super Bowls. It's funny. We celebrate ego in every other sport. Think about this. In the NBA, Russell Westbrook, my best friend's the ball. It kind of makes him quirky and likable. I mean, Kevin Durant, burner account Twitter. Kind of makes him more interesting. In the NBA, Michael Jordan's documentary, he mocked people. And we're like, God, I love Michael. I love him more now than ever. We're okay with NBA stars having an ego. International soccer stars, Ronaldo, Messi, they got tax evasion problems. They got personality issues. They bounce from European team to... It's kind of part of their appeal. They're superstars. In baseball, home run hitters. I grew up with Reggie Jackson, Sammy Sosa, Manny Ramirez. It's okay to be quirky. It makes them more appealing. Makes them bigger stars. UFC or boxing, like Conor McGregor. Well, of course he has to build his ego up. Of course boxers have to be a little out there. But if an NFL quarterback shows just a little ego or a little want with personnel or play calling, whoa. I want you to think about this. Aaron Rodgers makes $35 million a year. He's good looking. He dates celebrities. I think he owns like a hedge fund. He's the biggest star in his state. Aaron doesn't get a little ego? We got to draft Jordan Love to make sure Aaron Rodgers fits into our little box. Russell Wilson. Have you seen his wife? She's the best looking human on the planet. He makes $35 million. Biggest star in Seattle. He can't get a say in play calling? He can't have a little say in who you hire as your offensive coordinator? Why don't we celebrate egos everywhere else? Which I'm okay with. The guy's great in his prime. Let him have an ego. Let her have an ego. But if a quarterback doesn't fit into a box and you can't control... I used to work at a company like this. ESPN was just paralyzed by anybody having an ego. You know what happened? All those guys and gals with egos left, and it's not the same company. How about just... when people are great in their prime, they may be different. Howard Stern's a little different. He sees the world differently. Aaron Rodgers is a little different. It's okay. Soccer stars, UFC stars, home run hitters, NBA stars. We embrace it. We celebrate it. They're quirky. They're out there. But God, the Green Bay Packers can't totally control Aaron Rodgers. And Russell Wilson wants to have a say in the play calling and the schematics and the play design. And you understand Russell Wilson's not happy, right? Stories get out when somebody wants them out. It is amazing to me that this story is leaking because Seattle's ego is with the coach. These coaches and GMs, stop trying to control and manage and box in superstars. Listen, once they get old, get rid of them. But I want my quarterback when he goes into battle. I want my UFC fighter. I want my home run hitter. I want my NBA star to be a little delusional. A little delusional. I remember one time talking to somebody who was friends with Derek Jeter. And one night I was in Tampa, this was years and years ago, and Derek Jeter walked into a steakhouse with about 6 guys. And I told my friend about this, and he had covered Jeter for years in Tampa in spring training where the Yankees hosted. And he said, Jeter's whole theory is he doesn't want anybody giving him negative thoughts during the season because it's such a thinking sport. And he hangs around guys that make him feel good about himself, and they're kind of yes men, and they're really positive. He doesn't want cynical friends. He doesn't want critical friends. He wants a good vibe during the season because baseball is such a mental sport. And I'm like, I'm down with that. I get it. I don't want Derek Jeter doing, oh my God, can I hit the hurt? Oh my God, yesterday I went 0 for 4. I want Derek Jeter confident at the plate with 2 runners on, 7th inning tie game against the Red Sox at Fenway. NFL GMs, coaches, owners. Bruce Arians embraced Brady. He let Brady have a say. He let Brady dial up a play. He took some of Brady's leadership and said, I'm going to let go of myself a little and give Tom more of the offense. Result, Super Bowl. God, Seattle, lighten up. You're never going to get anybody as good as Russell. Like, that's it, right? Best player, franchise history. And they've had good players. He's the best ever. Take care of him. Make him happy. Suppress your ego. Let him have one. All right, LeBron James. I love this. I love when people do, what do they call it on Twitter, Joy, when you it's like covert shots at people. It's like you take a little shot at somebody, but it's not really a shot, but it really...
Subtweet?
Subtweet. Love it.
People are scared to tag you?
Yeah, it's subtweet. LeBron subtweeted, but it was verbal yesterday. He was talking about his workload. Anthony Davis is hurt, Dennis Schroeder's out, and LeBron now leads the NBA. I'm not joking here. He leads the NBA in minutes in February. He's 80 years old. He leads the NBA in minutes. So he was talking about the workload, blah, blah, blah. Here we go.
This whole narrative of, LeBron needs more rest, or I should take more rest, or I should take time here, it's become a lot bigger than what it actually really is. I've never talked about it. I don't talk about it. I don't believe in it. We all need more.
I love that.
Fast turnaround from last season, and we all wish we could have more rest. But I'm here to work. I'm here to punch my clock in and be available to my teammates.
That was a shot at Kawhi. It was a shot at Kyrie. It was a shot at Embiid. It was a subtweet. It was a shot at load management guys. It was a shot at minute restriction Paul George, who gets 6 months off, but he can only play this many minutes. It was a shot at all of them. We spent all this time talking about the differences with LeBron and MJ. Here's where they're totally similar. They both play sick. They play tired. They play hurt. They play cranky. They play when they got a cold. They play when they're sore. Kevin Durant's played 19 of 32 games. Kevin Durant, because his hamstrings are sore. So are LeBron's. It's called the NBA season being 38. You know how many games Damian Lillard, LeBron James, Chris Paul, and Steph Curry have missed? Veterans who are sore getting that. They're on ibuprofen the minute they wake up. They missed 3 combined. Michael Jordan literally demanded to play with a broken toe, second year in the league. So he broke his toe, and the organization freaked out because medical people said if he re-breaks it, it will never be the same. He had a broken toe. I can't go to work if I have an ice cream headache. He had a broken toe. Jordan demanded to play. Screamed at his coaches. It was against Atlanta. He screamed at his general manager with a broken toe. LeBron James leads the NBA in minutes at 38. I don't care what happened last night. They don't have AD. They don't have Dennis Schroeder. LeBron's in a shooting slump. Yeah, maybe he's tired. I mean, give me a break. This whole thing, I love that LeBron said that last night. It's very relatable. Hey, man, I'm punching the clock. That's what they do in Akron, Ohio. Not a lot of coastal jobs there. In Akron, Ohio, you punch the clock. You go to work. Doesn't matter if you're tired. Doesn't matter if you're hungover. It doesn't matter if you're sick. You go to work in Akron, Ohio. So sore hamstrings. You break. Give me a break. And like Anthony Davis, he's a terrific player. Man, you got to learn to play hurt. You got to learn. Patrick Mahomes played on one foot. And if he didn't get choked out, he was yelling at the coaches to get back in the game. He literally passed out on the field. He was playing on a foot. And he was screaming at Andy Reid, let me back in. They're like, no, dude, we're going to protect you from you. That's my kind of player. I don't feel great today. I woke up at 11:30 last night, never went back to bed. Where am I today? Entertaining America. Entertaining America is where I'm at with about 9 Red Bulls lined up. All right, coming up next, there are people that I will, way past their usefulness, I will let stay in the building because I think they're culture setters. And then there's people that are even more talented, but the minute they're past their prime, I want them out of the building. And you should hear what's happening with the Steelers. That's coming up.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Do you love a good story? Fantastic, because each episode of Storytime features some of your favorite creators from YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, and beyond sharing their most hilarious, horrifying, and cringe-inducing stories. Maybe you're looking to feel better about yourself by listening to someone else's mortifying experience. We got you covered.
I was like, oh, right. That would be a really bad way to tell somebody that their brother died.
Perhaps you swiped right on a story about a terrible Tinder date. Well, guess what? You've got a match.
Now, peeking in, I realize that she is talking to the doll heads.
Or maybe you're looking for stories so spooky you'll need an extra pair of chonies.
Suddenly, splashing in the pool stopped. My heart dropped and I could hear each of my panicked heartbeats.
Listen to Storytime every Wednesday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Got 30 free minutes? Don't worry about a break-in ever again at your home. Set up a security system. SimplySafeColin.com. Customize your system. Get a free security camera. Good to have you in today. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers are essentially playing chicken. They keep dissing Big Ben, and they're daring him to say something back. So if the Steelers keep Big Ben this year, he's a $41 million cap hit. He's worth less than half of that, in my opinion. If they release him, it's $22 million cap hit, dead money cap hit. To which I would say, so what? For 1 year, go get Sam Darnold. You're not paying Sam Darnold anything. The key is, what are you paying the position? If you bring in Sam Darnold with the dead money from Ben, it's $30 million. That's under market value, right? So the thing about Big Ben, and it's really heightened because of Tom Brady's greatness in tape study. There's a story that came out that Brady basically, the night before the Super Bowl, is sending all his receivers, tight ends, and backs tape at midnight. And he has been known, we saw Tom versus Time. Tom is a tape addict. And there's a handful of guys in the league. I think Tom's more addicted than most, but he's an addict. The not so secret in Pittsburgh is Ben doesn't like tape study. He doesn't really tape study. That's why the Steelers have the most remedial, simplest pre-snap audibles in the game. It's like high school football. And so Pittsburgh has a new offensive coordinator and a new quarterback coach. And both of them want to make the offense more sophisticated, more multiple sets, more motions. And Ben really isn't into that smart football thing. And so Ben, like Brett Favre at the end of his career, like, this is who I am. Love me or hate me, this is who I am. And that was adorable in the 80s and 90s, but it's 2021. And you just can't get away with being old, slow, inaccurate, and not studying tape. There are guys who are just talented, Favre and Big Ben. But the minute they're out of their prime, their usefulness in the locker room drops significantly. And then there are guys you'll just keep around forever. Udonis Haslem still plays for the Miami Heat. He's a culture setter. Drew Brees, workaholic grinder, culture setter. He was past his prime 4 years ago. Larry Fitzgerald, you just keep him in the room. He's an example. He's a mentor. He's smart. He offers wisdom. He's a grinder. And then there are other athletes, the majority of them, once they're out of the prime, get them out of the building. They're not guys, they're just talented. Favre had a lot of this. Ben's got a lot of this. So what the Steelers are basically doing now is they're playing chicken with him. They're leaking all these stories. They let it be known. We're ready to move. And I think it's the smart move. You cannot afford to pay Big Ben $41 million. Absolutely cannot afford to pay him $41 million. You can afford $22 million of dead cap money if you go get a Sam Darnold for a year. And by the way, this should not be undersold. The idea that Pittsburgh will go off the rails without Big Ben. Big Ben has missed 41 games with the Steelers. You know what their record is? 23-18. A couple years ago, they went 3-3 with something called Duck Hodges, and 5-3 with Mason Rudolph. Well, you think they can't move the football? They can't play without Big Ben? They're playing chicken with him, and I'm here for it. Joy Taylor with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Let's talk about Dak Prescott's contract, shall we?
Oh, let's play. I love that story. It never gets old.
Well, and it never ends. The window to begin applying the franchise or transition tag to NFL players opens today.
Yes, for March 9th. You got about a week, right?
Yes. So last year, the Cowboys failed to sign Dak Prescott to a multi-year contract. They're reportedly optimistic that they'll have a different outcome this time around. They are looking to work out a long-term deal before the March 9th deadline to apply the tag. However, another report says that the two sides have talked, but nothing meaningful has come from it. There's certain things I need to find out in sports. I need to find out all of the inner workings of the Patriots dynasty.
Oh, it's fun.
And, how all that unfolded.
I love it.
This contract, I don't know if we'll ever actually get the real story for what's going on here, but it just feels like we've been talking about this for so long, and I don't get it. Dak doesn't want a long deal. He wants a 4-year deal. The Cowboys want a 5-year deal because of the money. What are you doing? You don't talk about playing chicken. They're going to pay Dak $37.7 million on the tag this year, and then he's going to hit the open market next year? You know what Dak's going to do on the open market? Whatever he wants. Dak is a winner. Other than this injury, he's always available. What are they without him? They went 4-7 without him last year. You're talking about Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. Steelers were kind of still okay. Now, I don't think Mason Rudolph is the answer, and certainly Duck Hodges isn't, but what are the Cowboys going to do? What is your plan?
Well, it's interesting because you can franchise one guy, and if you pay him $37 million, you're kind of trapped for a year for an organization that has multiple holes, most on defense. So, or you can sign him to a longer deal and largely manipulate the cap. And so I think Dallas has two plays here. If you sign him to a long-term deal, the number comes down, you can manipulate it.
Right.
I mean, the bottom line, if you draft well, you're fine at $32 million with a quarterback. You really are. You got to hit your draft picks. But the Rams, by the way, pay a lot of stars, a lot of money, but they've hit on almost every draft pick of note. So if the Cowboys trust their scouting department, then you sign Dak long-term. The biggest issue with this organization, and this $32 million would not be nearly as big a deal, but you're paying DeMarcus Lawrence, a solid player, huge money, and Amari Cooper, a good receiver, great money. So Dallas can worry about Dak, but the bigger issue here is you are overpaying multiple players, top 5 in the league, and they're probably top 20 players. So they're a little jammed up, and Dak's paying the price for it.
And you also prioritize signing your running back over the quarterback.
I never liked that. I don't like it.
Pro Football Focus has Prescott ranked as the number 1 overall free agent.
Well,
So if he hits the open market, he's going to have his choice of where he wants to go. So Sam Darnold's future in New York is uncertain.
I know.
And he probably won't have an answer anytime soon. The Jets have the second pick in the draft, as we know, and they will reportedly evaluate all the top quarterback prospects before making a decision. And those evaluations include the players' pro day workouts, individual interviews, and so it will likely be closer to the draft before the Jets know what they're going to do with Darnold.
Well, they were out of the playoffs by September 15th, so can't they look at that film? I mean, haven't they evaluated Darnold and Trevor Lawrence?
Well,
Don't you have film on him?
I think they're not going to get Trevor Lawrence, but I think they are maybe considering throwing that film out since Adam Gase was at the helm.
Okay, well, Justin Fields played his last game a month ago. You haven't sat down and what are you guys doing?
I think they want to
interview.
I think they want to go to the interviews.
God, that's going to do it? Really? I'm going to sit down. I'm like, I hate his tape. You know, I found him charming. Watch his tape. Interview? What is that? What is it? I can fool anybody in an interview.
I don't know. I think it matters. I think if you're making a decision of this magnitude, there's no need to rush. Maybe you stick with Sam Darnold, and maybe it's time to move on.
Johnny Manziel was great in his interview. That doesn't mean anything to me.
Was he? I think they just wanted to go with Johnny
come
Manziel.
on, Jets. You have Darnold tape, Fields tape. What? I mean, I don't understand this. What game are you playing
I
here?
think they're taking their time to evaluate the situation before they go into the draft, and maybe they're waiting for other offers.
Is BYU playing games from now until April? Is Ohio State got some more?
I don't know. Just, they need more research. They need to see what the work ethic is, and what their personality
Make
is.
4
their
calls.
leaders in the locker room. I don't know. That's what
Phones
they're
still
saying.
work. Make calls.
Cam Newton is set to become a free agent and could be on the market and on his way out of New England. Although much was made about his relationship with Bill Belichick throughout last season, Cam has nothing but respect and admiration for Belichick.
I think Bill Belichick is the most misunderstood person in all of
100%,
sports.
1,000%.
He dope as
Yeah.
He is a cool dude. He understands the game. He's like an historian of the game.
Yeah.
And for you to just sit down and chat with him, like, it's like, damn, like, he's going back and he's got film, like, literally teaching the game.
It's quite an endorsement from Cam Newton there.
I don't know what that interview was. I've seen 50 clips on that interview. It must have been a great podcast.
Yeah, it's I Am Athlete, Brandon Marshall podcast.
I got a lot of play. That's like the 15th story we've done on that podcast.
It's Brandon Marshall, Ojo Cinco. Yeah, it's a good interview actually, but that's a great endorsement for Bill Belichick, who's taken a lot of L's over the past year.
Yeah,
he's not generally described as dope as bleep, but I get what he's saying. I think that Cam appreciates what Bill is as a coach, what his style is. He talked more about it and talked about like the Patriot way and what all that really means. And it's not really much different than what we've heard from everyone, but obviously this experience this year was very unique from the past 20 years where you've had Tom Brady. And he's basically saying, like, winning is the standard. Like, everything that you do there is about winning. It's not about your personality. It's not about your feelings.
You know what?
It's not about what you're going through. Like, at the end of the day, you got to do your job.
I'm probably as critical of Cam as anybody in the national media. The last year, I like Cam Newton more than I've ever liked. First of all, that bratty kid, I am out on. All these interview clips have been great. Certain people age better. I think Cam was immature entering the league. I think he's kind of coming to terms with his football mortality, like his football career. And I think he's starting to appreciate things that he probably had so much talent early he didn't care about. Like, just give me the ball. I mean, that's his whole life. Junior college, high school, college, give me the ball. I mean, if you watch Cam at Auburn, he literally you couldn't stop him.
Yeah, he's always been the best athlete.
It was literally like he looked like Thanos or whatever these games are. And so I think Cam, as he's like becoming less of a player, unlike Big Ben, Cam's putting in the work and kind of appreciates. He's seeing himself and going, I want to end this with some dignity. And I like it. I really do.
I mean, sometimes it takes time to evolve and lean into different parts of the game that you haven't had to experience. Yeah. And there is no experience like the New England Patriot way.
Good stuff, Joy, with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd
So I
Line
saw this story.
News.
The Lions head coach Dan Campbell said yesterday, I'm okay being known as a meathead. Okay, so it's one thing to be one. Don't take pride in it. Not good. I want to bring on somebody who played in the NFL at a high level for a long time, LeVar Arrington. I want to bring him on. We don't get many in-person guests anymore, so we feel honored here to have LeVar Arrington on our show. Let's bring in LeVar, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing Pro Bowler, half the years he was in. Okay, so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So I think it's the worst year I ever remember. I thought the candidates were great. I thought the hires were putrid. Nick Sirianni will not last 2 years. David Culley in Houston was desperate. And Dan Campbell acknowledges, I'm okay being a meathead. Be honest with me. Did you ever have a head coach or a position coach that, LeVar, you felt like going into the week you would be out-coached, that you felt you either had better instincts, you were smarter than, or you knew you didn't have an elite coach?
Oh, Colin, here's what's interesting about that question is more often than not, and the answer is yes, all right? The quick answer is yes. But the reasoning behind it is that's more often than not. If you think about the parity of comparison and competition in college and pros, and you wonder why the same teams win over and over and over again, it's probably because they have a great coaching staff. So many times, and I have been held to the highest accountability of being a player that was called uncoachable, undisciplined, a freelancer, didn't understand the game. If we took a Wonderlic test, guarantee you I'll score higher than all of them. Guaranteed. If we took an assessment of intelligence and intellect, guaranteed I'll score higher. But more often than not, because the loyalties and the focus always seems to fall on the players, really. I would rather say I'm riding with the coach, which is leadership, which is a direct connection to the team, and not hold them as accountable as the players, because players are generally more expendable. The next one on the list is the coach, but you're not going to throw coaches under the bus for being inept at being a great coach or not being a high-level, sophisticated person. It's interesting thinking about some of the position coaches. We talked about this off air.
So there's head coaches, coordinators, and position coaches. For the record,
Sure.
most position coaches never even become coordinators. Forget
And
head
some
coaches.
do. Some get that fast track, right? They get that
Right.
what is it called? Cronyism, and they
Right.
they get the, what is it when it's the family? What's the word for the family deal? Nepotism. There you go, Joy. I played for plenty of coaches. When I played for Marty's brother was on the
Marty
on
Schottenheimer?
God bless him and rest his soul. I love Marty. Kurt was the defensive coordinator. Brian was on the staff, right? Probably had grandkids on the staff. Same with Joe Gibbs, right? Same with Coach Spurrier.
Same with Belichick now.
Same with Belichick. So these guys are bringing, same with Andy Reid. These guys bring in their people. And when I say their people, I mean their people. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at what they do. They just happen to be born of the right lineage to the right people, and that gives them the opportunity to make their way into the coaching ranks in that industry. So more often than not, the focal point isn't on those coaches, so you don't find yourself questioning their mental aptitude. So yes, there are a lot of underqualified people that are coaching. And that's why you see the same coaches, Colin. You see the same coaches because you got to keep that close to the vest. If me and you are cool and we can put on the straight face and say, this is how you're supposed to do media, this is how it's supposed to look, and we keep it together and it never leaks out, then you can maintain that. Right? We can maintain that because we're on the same page. Right. But if you get people coming out saying, oh, the way Colin is doing, look at the way LeVar is doing, oh, Joy, what's Joy doing? Like, if people start calling it out, then you start to bring the focal point onto it. So what you're doing right now is you're probably having some people sitting in their office who have you on right now on their television screen, and they're like, why did you pick LeVar Arrington to be the one to talk about this topic? Because he doesn't care. He's unconscious about telling people's business, and I'm going to do it right here in studio live, and I enjoy doing it.
I've said this before. I think the greater point you said early. I was thinking, it was so random. I was thinking about this driving to work today. that in the history of Nick Saban in the SEC, I think there's 2 or 3 times he's met his equal. I thought Chris Peterson at Washington brought a marginally talented team to the Final Four and actually gave him a game with no players. Chris Peterson could coach. He retired.
Can coach.
Urban Meyer could coach. He retired. And Dabo Swinney. Nick almost always. I mean, even Belichick has Sundays where you're like, oh, Andy Reid got him. Pete Carroll got him. Like, to your point, it's the reason the same guys win every year.
It's the reason.
Okay, so let me ask you about this. It's about the 4th story on Russell Wilson that gets out today. It's pretty obvious he's unhappy. And I made this argument. We celebrate a UFC boxing legend or star having an ego. He needs to. The shield.
The machismo.
We celebrate home run hitters. Reggie, Sammy Sosa, Ramirez. It's almost adorable. We celebrate NBA stars. Russell Westbrook. My best friend's the ball. Kind of makes him more likable, right? When Jordan just whacks everybody, 10-part documentary. We're like, I love Michael. He crushes everybody. But if an NFL quarterback's got a little ego and don't want to fit in a box,
It's toxic.
Russell Wilson, like, all he wants is a say. I mean, do you ever play with quarterbacks have a...
Oh, I play with quarterbacks. I mean, I played with Jeff George.
Oh, he had an ego.
He had an ego. You know, I play with quarterbacks, and you're supposed to be the father figure, the leader, the calming force. You're supposed to be the one that's different from everyone when you have the quarterback's position as your position. You are the anointed leader of the team.
I get it.
Does that make it right or wrong? You know, people made fun of Jim McMahon for being too animated and kind of like a Looney Tune in terms of the type of guy that he was personality-wise.
He fit that roster.
But we loved him.
Well, and he fit that roster.
We loved him. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that. I mean, you see Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. I mean, and he's always been a fiery dude. You see him go head-to-head, not just with a player.
Honey Badger.
He goes ahead with Honey Badger, don't care, right? He goes head-to-head with Honey Badger. And we love it. I just think it's selective. We're selective of when we have moments in time where we don't want to see a quarterback conduct himself or say things a certain type of way. You're seeing it with Deshaun Watson and the fallout. Deshaun hasn't really said anything at all.
Aaron Rodgers. We got to draft
Jordan
Jordan
with
Love.
Aaron Rodgers.
Everybody's trying to box in these stars quarterbacks, and I'm like, there's a difference between confidence and immaturity. Baker was immature. Johnny Manziel was immature.
Okay.
Jameis was a little immature.
Okay.
I'm okay with Russell Wilson, who's married to the most beautiful person on the planet, feeling good about himself.
Well, maybe second.
I mean, again, you get a little. I'm going to give you a little.
He's earned the right to have a voice, and he's earned the right where that voice shouldn't have to hit media for it to be heard.
Thank you. You worked hard today. You did a. How long was that show before us?
I think 2.5.
No script.
No script.
There's a lot of
People
talking.
think that this is easy, what we do.
It is ditch digging. This is outside of literally grabbing a shovel, it's America's hardest job.
You know, people will sit there and shun what you just said.
I know.
But they do not realize how hard it is for you and Joy to do what it is that you guys do at the level you do it every single day.
There are days Joy and I walk out of here with a piano on our back.
Indeed.
The whole network we're carrying. I'm glad one guy gets it.
Indeed. And I mean, and you should make that known. You have earned the right to make your voice, let your voice be heard.
Maybe I should leak some stories.
I mean, you got the microphone.
LeVar Arrington, let's hear it for him. It's great seeing you, buddy.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Coming up next, there's going to be 3 to 4 busts in the first round. At least one quarterback will bust. I'll just throw my name out there. I'll give you the guy I don't understand why everybody doesn't see it, and that's coming up.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
The Therapy for Black Girls podcast is your space to explore mental health, personal development, and all of the small decisions we can make to become the best possible versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Dr. Joy Harden Bradford, a licensed psychologist in Atlanta, Georgia, and I can't wait for you to join the conversation every Wednesday. Listen to the Therapy for Black Girls podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Take good care.
When the weather's crappy outside, want to be able to see clearly, Michelin Endurance XD silicone wiper blades. Walmart lasts 2 times longer. They repel bad weather. So sometimes in sports, you can say things, and they're always true, but when you say them, people bristle. Like 4 teams that made the playoffs last year in the NFL will not get in this year, and 4 new teams will get in. That's happened 3 decades in a row. But if I insinuate your playoff team won't make it, people freak out. There's going to be minimum 3 absolute busts in the first round of the NFL draft. Minimum. There have been years where there's 6 to 8. There will be at least 1 quarterback bust in the first round. Every year. Paxton Lynch, E.J. Manuel, Josh Rosen, Johnny Manziel, Dwayne Haskins, Brandon Whedon. One's going to be a bust. I do not understand the current momentum behind Mac Jones. There is no proof that Nick Saban develops NFL quarterbacks. Tua was the golden child. Tua, I was assured, was different. Tua, I was told, is one of the great all-time high school quarterbacks. The Miami Dolphins benched him twice last year, and 3 of his starts he completed under 100 yards passing. Also rumors they want Deshaun Watson. That tells you not only are they disappointed in the games Tua's played, they don't like what they see at practice. Mac Jones gets 5 things at Alabama he will not get in the NFL. He throws to wide open receivers. Look how often the receiver is wide open. He's behind an offensive line that rarely allows him to get even rushed. He always has an elite run game. He always plays with a lead. And because his coach is Nick Saban, he always goes into a better game with a better scheme, a better game plan, better in-game adjustments. That is not the way it works in the NFL. You're always rushed. Your receivers are rarely open. Good luck if you have a running game over 2 or 3 straight years. Eventually the back wears down or wears himself out. You almost never have the best coach in the league. Playing with a lead? Give me a break. 1 quarterback's played with a lead the last 20 years, Brady. That's it. I mean, you're playing from behind all the time in the teeth of a pass rush. I saw Mike Tannenbaum, former GM, came out yesterday. He has Trevor Lawrence number 1, Zach Wilson 2, and Mac Jones number 3. I can't discuss that. I don't even want to go there. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm not anti-Mac Jones. But there's a reason these Alabama guys don't work in the NFL. Because you don't face a real world at Alabama. You always have a lead, and you always have a great run game. And your receiver, look at all these videos I'm showing you. Everybody's wide open by 15 yards. DeAndre Hopkins doesn't get that open in the NFL. Randy Moss wasn't that open in the NFL. Calvin Johnson wasn't that open in the NFL. Every Alabama wide receiver is wide open. You have the better coach, the lead, the better O-line. You never get rushed. There's a reason where most star quarterbacks in the NFL didn't go to great football powers. Ben Roethlisberger, Miami of Ohio. Aaron Rodgers, Cal. Phillip Rivers, NC State. Russell Wilson, NC State, benched, had to transfer. He had to go to Wisconsin because the coach didn't like him. Tom Brady didn't start at Michigan. There's a reason why Matt Ryan, Boston College. Dak Prescott, Mississippi State. There's a reason most NFL quarterbacks don't come from traditional powers. Because you get really comfortable at traditional powers. It's not an NFL life. It's why trust fund kids have a lot of issues. They grow up with BMWs and horses and polo and country clubs. That's not the real world. And when they get a little strain, chaos, or pushback in their life, they don't know what to do. Do you know 92% of millionaires in America are from middle-class families or below? Why? Because they've had to fight for the last piece of food at dinner. They're like kids who have to deal with like life stuff, like getting yelled at and getting grounded and not having lunch money. And they're like 92% used to, now maybe because of tech it's changed, most millionaires come from humble beginnings because they're ready for the struggle. There's a reason that the NFL isn't just filled with Alabama and Ohio State quarterbacks. That's not a real life. Mac Jones is, yesterday I saw where Devontae Smith, the star receiver, chose Mac Jones over Tua. People were tanking for Tua. That was a term. You know there's going to be a bust in this first round, right? At quarterback. You know this to be true. I don't get it. I have heard Charlie Weiss and Mike Tannenbaum and Devontae Smith, and this guy is great. Athletically, he is a 1978 quarterback. He was a 3-star athlete. His arm is good, not special. Where's the it? I mean, God, folks, anybody that's quarterbacking now, Nick Saban mostly has recruited quarterbacks that don't get in the way of his defense and coaching. My buddy Jim McElwain, who I lived next to in college, told me, Nick said, listen, just don't lose games for us. Lane Kiffin will tell you that. Don't get too clever. Don't lose games for us. Coaching and defense will win the SEC. I don't know. I don't see it. All right, you Baker Mayfield fans, you thought you hated me before the next segment. Mayfield or the Hour 2, live in LA. It's the Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, FS1. Joy Taylor is joining me. We have controversy magnet John Ritchie in the next hour, former Philadelphia Eagle. Last time he came on. So yesterday I did something, Joy Taylor.
What did you do?
That created controversy, and I didn't for a second think it was controversial. So we were talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, and I was defending Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
And I said, you fans all beat up on him, but Belichick loved him, Kyle Shanahan traded for him, and the Niners stink when he doesn't play. Yeah, I don't love his injuries, but the kid can play. So I said, okay, listen. You have to have a top 12 quarterback in the NFL to get to Super Bowls, if you look at the recent last 20 years in the NFL. So I put out a list of what I consider the top 6 quarterbacks in the league. Again, I don't even think this is arguable. Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson. I don't think that's really arguable. And then I said the next 6 we could debate. I have Matt Ryan in and I don't have Dak. Well, Matt Ryan's been an MVP and he's gotten to a Super Bowl. Dak's won a playoff game. But I said the second 6 are varied. I had in Lamar, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, Jimmy G, Matt Ryan, Kyler Murray. And I didn't have Dak in, which, listen, if you have Dak in, I'm not going to yell and scream. Matt Ryan has been an MVP and gotten to a Super Bowl and led a Super Bowl with about 10 minutes to go. And by the way, Garoppolo, in his one full season starting, got to a Super Bowl. But I said the next 6 is not, you could argue with me. It's all debatable. Cleveland fans were outraged. Not just that Baker didn't make the second 6. Many said he should have made the first 6.
Oh,
and I'm like, oh, crazy town. Oh, crazy town. So today is line in the sand day. We're going to play Mayfield or the field. For the next 5 years, who would I rather have?
Okay.
Next 5 years. So that will take, obviously, Breeze, no.
Right.
Next 5 years, Mayfield or the field. Here we go.
All right, Baker Mayfield or Lamar Jackson?
Lamar Jackson's won 80% of his games. Lamar Jackson does something better than any football quarterback in the history of the sport. Moves. This is not close.
Baker Mayfield, Justin Herbert.
Not a GM in the league would take Baker over Justin Herbert. He's bigger, he's stronger, he was a 4-point student. He set every rookie quarterback touchdown record they've ever created, Herbert by a mile.
Baker Mayfield or Derek Carr?
Last 2 years, Derek Carr is 101 passer rating. 3 times the TDs over picks. It ain't close. Derek Carr.
Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Now, this is the rub, right? Well, Jimmy gets hurt a lot. I'm not disputing that. And that worries me. But the Niners are awful without him. And we know their roster's good and Shanahan's good. I'd take Garoppolo for the next 5 years and roll the dice on his health.
Baker Mayfield or Matt Ryan?
MVP, Super Bowl, multiple playoff wins. Matt Ryan's 35. He's not 39. Now, if I sign him for 5 years, the last year may be nonsense. I'll make a prediction. Matt Ryan with Arthur Smith, the coach, is going to have 2 really good years. He finally gets an offensive coach. We're all going to like Matt Ryan by November again. I know we're all out on Matt. Watch by November. We're all going to be back in the Matt Ryan fan club.
Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray?
Kyler Murray. Again, Kyler does some things spectacularly. He's not there yet. But he had a big jump rookie year to last year.
Baker Mayfield or Dak Prescott?
Dak Prescott. Baker's a better pure thrower of the football. I think Dak's a better athlete. I think he's more mature. I feel there is sort of in the locker room, he's loved by everybody. I think Baker's got some critics inside that locker room.
Baker Mayfield or Ryan Tannehill?
Close, but I saw a stat. Let me give you this. Ryan Tannehill had the second highest passer rating in the last 20 games to Aaron Rodgers. I know we all don't like Ryan Tannehill, but unlike Baker, he doesn't have two great tight ends. He doesn't have the greatest offensive line. Ryan Tannehill, I got to be honest with you, often plays trailing because of that crappy defense. Tannehill's probably the most underrated quarterback in the league today.
Baker or Kirk Cousins?
Close. I would take the maturity and the accuracy of Kirk Cousins. I don't think there's a huge gap. Kirk drives me nuts in big games, but Baker doesn't have a history of winning a lot of big games either.
All right, now it gets interesting. Baker or Tua?
I'd take Baker. I don't know if Tua can play. I don't see a lot of special with Tua. I think the Dolphins have questions. I think Baker's got a little more it factor.
Baker or Joe Burrow?
I think Burrow's really special. I thought Burrow would be a good NFL quarterback. I think I made a mistake. I think he's really, really special.
Baker or Carson Wentz?
Carson's a much bigger, stronger, better athlete. This moment, a lot of people would go Baker, but I guess my takeaway is the only thing that scares people about Wentz is his contract. Everybody knows he was an MVP for 10 weeks 2 years ago. He was literally, when he had Frank Reich, the MVP of the entire league.
Baker or Jared Goff?
I take Baker. I think Baker 5 years with Kevin Stefanski will be better than Goff 5 years with Fred Flintstone in Detroit.
Baker or Big Ben?
I take Baker. I'm out on Big Ben. And I think Baker works harder than Ben. I would move off Big Ben, so I'd take Baker.
Baker or Matthew Stafford?
I think Stafford's a much better talent. Yeah, Stafford has a stat. I saw this. Let me look this one up. Stafford has the most game-winning drives, 36 in the NFL in the last decade. How? He plays for the Lions.
They're usually trailing.
Yeah.
Baker or Mitchell Trubisky?
Baker. Mitch Trubisky's a very limited thrower. I think Baker can make big-time throws. There's things I worry about Baker. He's not the athlete he thinks he is, but he makes big-time throws, and I think Trubisky's limited as a thrower of the football.
All right, here's the big question. Next 5 years, Baker or the GOAT?
Tom Brady. First of all, Tom Brady will be great next year.
Right.
And you imagine, because of his work ethic, he'll be good the following two. I couldn't give a rip the last two. If Brady gives me 3 more years, 1 A-, 2 B+, do we know that Baker's going to get a contract extension in Cleveland? We don't.
So you would take Baker over Trubisky, Big Ben, Jared Goff, and Tua?
Is that unrealistic? Am I being ridiculous?
No, I don't think you are. I mean, I think a lot of people would go either way on the Carson Wentz or Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, Carson's a fortune, and he played. I get it, but I'm saying if you gave me both, I think the upside's much higher with Wentz.
Right.
I'm willing to roll the dice on the Jimmy Garoppolo injury, although I get it. The arguments.
Yes, people would argue about Jimmy Garoppolo.
I get it. But I got 1 year starting, and the kid got to the Super Bowl and let Patrick Mahomes with 7 minutes to go.
No, I mean, the idea that Baker Mayfield is in the top 6 best
silly.
quarterbacks in the league is silly.
I don't like being known as, and I almost regret doing this segment because now everybody's going to think, oh, Colin, you're doing. I think you have almost no arguments with any of those. The Wentz thing, I get. Because the last 10 games we've seen of Carson Wentz, he can't complete screen passes. I get that. But I'm saying 5 years, I think if he turns around, I get a B+, A- quarterback. Drew Bledsoe's now going to join us live. 14 years in the NFL, number 1 draft pick. Isn't it the worst when you play quarterback, schmucks like me come out and grade you all the time? It's just a horrible. What if Drew Bledsoe sat around all day and graded sportscasters? It'd be terrible.
Oh man, it would be rough for you guys, dude. It'd be really rough. I might try. I might try it. Actually, there was a time that some buddies and I sat on you, we should do that one time. And I obviously can't share with you on air. You did all right, bud. You came out okay. But some of your cohorts, man, we had some interesting things to say. It was pretty funny.
Hopefully you were drinking your double back wine that made the night better. So
Definitely.
let me start with this. We saw another story with Russell Wilson come out, and I defended quarterbacks today. I said, we love our soccer stars and our UFC boxers and our home run hitters and our NBA stars. We give them a little ego. You're the best in the world. But if a quarterback shows he doesn't want to be in your little box, the Packers are drafting Jordan Love and the Seahawks want to move him. Did you ever feel in the NFL sometimes a little restrained by the ecosystem of the NFL?
There's no question, Colin. As a quarterback, your part of your job is to be a politician. You have to learn how to say a lot without saying anything. And the minute that you express, a real opinion, man, you're just criticized, up and down, left and right. And so, look, as a quarterback of Russell's stature, I think part of what's going on, people asked if you wanted some input on player decisions. And, shoot, they asked me about player decisions. They asked the quarterback about player decisions. You just can't admit that they actually asked you about it. So you set yourself up. Then you set yourself up to be criticized. Well, that player didn't work out, and Russ picked him. Well, no, you don't want that either. So it's a hard line to walk. You've got to try to do the right thing all the time, and then sometimes when you do the right thing, you get criticized for that. So it's part of the game. It's one of the reasons that quarterbacks make a ton of money. It's just you have these other responsibilities that other players don't have.
Yeah, I liked how you said that. You got to be a little bit of a politician. So Dak Prescott is, whether you love him or not, it's been 2 years where we've talked contract and he hasn't gotten a contract. And I'll be honest with you. I try to sometimes put myself in the athlete's perspective. If I was hanging out there for 2 years and my company wouldn't offer me a contract, at some point, I think there'd be a little bitterness. Like, was there ever a point in your career, like you thought, like, guys, I'm giving you everything. How do you think that lands for Dak?
Well, I think it's frustrating, but it's also, and again, I make it firm policy not to talk about somebody else's money. But I also know that they've been in negotiation for a number of years, and in a negotiation there's give and take, and so I do think at some point, hopefully they meet at an agreeable point for both of them, so that Dak can be there for a long time. Because I've said this before, I really like Dak. I really truly do. I think he's a heck of a player. He's a great leader. I think he brings that other aspect to the game, because when he's not in the pocket, he can actually pull it down and run for yards. But quarterback in the Cowboys, I did that for a couple of years. It's a different kind of job, man. And Dak seems to stand up underneath that kind of pressure very, very well. Doesn't seem to phase him very much, and that's a big part of playing quarterback down there.
So I was talking to LeVar Arrington earlier about this. I said, and LeVar Arrington brought up a good point. He said there's a reason the same coaches win every year in the NFL and college. There's a lot of bad coaches. And yesterday, Dan Campbell in Detroit goes, I don't mind being known as a meathead. And I thought, slow down. I don't want my coach saying that. You don't have to name names. But were there times, maybe it wasn't a head coach, it was a coordinator, or it was a position coach. Did you feel at times, Drew, that you had the second best coach on Sunday? That you just felt like, I don't have the best back support here?
Well, yeah. So let's be honest. When I left New England, I had to go back and face Belichick, twice a year. And so I don't think any coach would feel like I was slighting him when I said that we were at a disadvantage from that standpoint. I will tell you, I love Danny Campbell. He was with me in Dallas for a year. He is just a high intensity dude, and I really wish him the best. And I actually think for the first time, the Lions are kind of set up going forward. They got a mountain of draft picks now. If they do things right, he's going to have some personnel, and I just hope he puts good coordinators around him.
Yeah. Do you think coaching on average, though, is good, average? In your career, is it excellent, good, solid, or just okay?
There's a very broad range, Colin, and I've talked with some buddies that I played with for a number of years, and there were a lot of very good coaches, obviously. But the frustration that I think some guys have is that when you get to the NFL, you're the best of the best, right? You're the best of the best that's ever played, and you finally get there. You think that across the board the coaching is going to be the same. And there were, coaches that I had in college, even a couple of coaches that I had in high school, that would have been better coaches in some cases than some of the guys that were coaching in the NFL. And that's, and it's like, hey, look, there's great coaches in high school. There's great coaches in college that sometimes just choose to stay there. So it's not necessarily a slight, but you do think that you're always going to be amongst the best, and that's not always the case.
So tell me, where are you? It's funny. There are some guys like Brett Favre, they never get hurt. And then there's guys like Garoppolo, who by week 2 or 3 every year always seems dinged up. And some of it's just genetics, it's DNA. Some guy, John Lynch once told me, I love John. John's like, I never had a concussion. And I'm like, what? 12 years, you were knocking people out with your top of your helmet. I don't understand it. But John swears, I never had concussions. Would you be concerned that Garoppolo is simply, and I'm sure you played with guys like this, he's brittle. His body doesn't withstand the season.
Yeah, it's a real concern, Colin. It really is for certain players. They just get hurt a lot. I mean, I've played for quite a while. I had the one deal where I almost died with Tommy, but other than that, I was able to stay on the field most of the time. And it is a real concern, and I think that there are a couple of different things that play into that. One is just there's some brittleness maybe, but there's another piece that just like sometimes guys just don't know how to fall properly,
Right.
and you just go down awkwardly. I remember when Russ and RG3 came into the league, same year, rookie year. And early on, RG3 was lighting the world on fire. Russ was playing well also, but I remember saying to somebody, like, man, RG3 just gets hit hard a lot. And Russ almost never gets hit hard. You watch him, he goes, runs around, makes all these plays. He almost never gets hit hard. And so there is a thing to it that's beyond just being brittle. It's knowing how to fall and how to get hit and how to protect yourself.
Yeah, no, it is. It is interesting, and I think it's funny. Kyler Murray played baseball and Russell played baseball. They're both great sliders. They both get like Lamar Jackson. I love, but there are times with Lamar, he's tall, he's thin, and he just gets smoked. And you can only take so many of those hits. Okay, finally, would you be comfortable doing what Deshaun Watson's doing? Like, I've had players tell me, I couldn't do it, man. I don't like the heat. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has the personality to say, I'm holding out. I don't think it's his personality. That's fine. Would you have the personality to say, listen, I don't trust my organization. I'm not playing. How would it land for you?
Well, the short answer is no. I never held out, and I just felt like the best way to handle a negotiation was to show up and be great at your job. But I also know that every situation is unique and every situation is different. And what Deshaun Watson is dealing with down there in Houston, it looks like it's going to be a really bad situation now for a while because there's no way to fix it. If they've exhausted other avenues with the organization to try to get them to move him, and that's not working. You don't get a lot of shots at this as an NFL quarterback.
Right.
If it's going to be really awful for a long time, he's got to find a way out. And so I don't judge him for doing that, but that's not how I probably would have done it.
It looks like you're joining us from a mountainside in Montana. Am I correct?
That is correct, man. And, up here, hiding out in the mountains, sitting by the fire, and I might even go sliding around on the ski slopes here in a little while.
Look, has it been a good snow season for Montana?
It's been pretty thin, but they got a bunch here the last couple of weeks, so it's been pretty good recently.
All right, I want you to go to doubleback.com, doubleback.com. It's the best cab I've ever had, Doubleback Winery. And will you enjoy a glass on the mountain today, by the way?
When I'm done. You know, if my wife's with me, we'll have a little rosé at lunch. But when I'm by myself, and I'm just by myself today, I'll just go ski and then have a glass of wine when I'm done. And by the way, I haven't forgotten you guys. I've got some wine for you, Colin, and I've got some Joy Chardonnay coming down for Joy. Don't think I forgot you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, it is wonderful. Doubleback.com. The winery is remarkable. Check it out. Good seeing you, bud.
Yeah, likewise, Colin. Always great to see you, buddy. I know you don't want to talk about it anymore. Really glad your health is good.
Yeah, boy, that was no good. I didn't even get hit. Jeez, I can't imagine getting hit for a living. But I'm good.
Oh, man.
We're all good.
Good, man. We're all really glad you're back, bud.
All right, thanks. Drew Bledsoe, really good guy.
That's quite some scenery he's coming to the show with. You can hear the fireplace crackling in the background.
You know
nice woods.
You know the good thing about being like sick or having to go to the hospital?
No.
There's one good thing. Every time my wife disagrees with me, I look at her and go, I almost died 2 weeks ago. You win every argument. And then
for like another 2 weeks, and then you're going to do something active, and then that card is gone.
It's still working. Honey, you're lucky I'm here.
Oh, my God.
It really does. It's very effective.
We are glad you're back, though.
I should just fake an ankle twist.
No more. We're going to put you in a bubble soon.
I thought I already lived in one. All right, good stuff. Antonio Daniels next hour. John Ritchie, very controversial. I'm going to go check my Twitter to see what the Baker Mayfield stuff got. Go on social media to see what they're saying. The wackos.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you like.
Okay, let's go.
So we're supposed to be sticking to the script, but we ain't. Because that's just not what we do. It's your girl Tam Bam, y'all. And it's AJ Hey. And we're giving a whole bunch of good, bad advice and a lot of bad, great advice. We're trying to teach you how to say when, how, and how much, y'all.
Yes, sir.
Now, that doesn't always have to apply to your sex life, ladies. It can absolutely apply to your career. Unless your sex life is your career, then it's interchangeable.
We're talking about a whole lot of sex.
I love the sex.
Hey, and a bunch of money.
Love the money.
And relationships.
We're gonna work on that. So listen to our new show, We Talk Back, every Thursday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
On Saturday, the former two-time super middleweight world champion Anthony the Dog Durrell returns and will face off against the rising Chiron Shut-It-Down Davis. Don't miss the action Saturday on Fox and the Fox Sports app.
I just have to watch that. I watch a lot of TV now. What else you do?
Well, maybe we go for a walk and then.
Yeah, I did that. I did an hour walk
Watch
yesterday.
a little
My dogs aren't here. I watched a ton of NBA the last 5 or 6 days. My dogs aren't around.
You're living an interesting life right now.
I am. It's very.
You should start journaling. What?
Journaling?
Yeah.
Like talking
Well, we had Matthew McConaughey on. He wrote a whole book based off of his life journal, and you said you admired that. You're going through an interesting life experience right now. Maybe you should journal.
I don't think it's interesting.
No?
Like how deep do you go? Hey, I'm drinking a cocktail. B, I wish the hotel would make my bed.
I don't know. You're living in a hotel. You're at a transitional point. We're going through a pandemic.
I had pancakes for dinner last night.
Okay, so maybe not.
Does
maybe
that make
not
the journal?
Pancakes are better than waffles, though.
That's
Don't
not
at
even
me.
close. That's not even debatable.
Yeah.
Joy with the news.
No. Herd on the news. This is the Herd Live News.
I always been a little jealous of people who can do a journal, that have the discipline to do a journal.
It is. I've tried. I actually have 3 mostly blank journals on my nightstand because I intend to journal, and then I'm like.
And I tend to be optimistic. Like, so I would not put the sad stuff in, so it would be unrealistic.
I actually journaled a lot in my childhood, which is probably why I don't journal now. I used to keep like a diary every day, and that was sad. So I still have them actually. They're like very raggedy, but.
How old were you?
In like 11 to like 14.
Wow, how mature.
Well,
seems very mature.
Yeah,
Journaled at 11.
A lot of stuff to get out.
I don't think I'm disciplined enough to journal at 50.
I mean, they weren't really intense at 11. I was like, we played with the dog today. So Russell Wilson is frustrated with the Seahawks, and he's voiced his frustration several times this offseason, and he's been the subject of trade rumors ever since. And according to Michael Silver, about 1/3 of the league has reached out to the Seahawks about the possibility of trading for him. While they're not actively shopping Russell, obviously, they are reportedly willing to listen to offers.
Whoa!
And the starting point in any negotiation is said to be 3 first-round picks, which I think is
willing to listen to offers. Okay. All right. Now, Pete Carroll fired twice. Losing record in Seattle pre-Russell Wilson. Let it roll, Pete.
I'm going to say this, because you talked about this earlier, and I think it's important. And whatever, big companies and corporations are going to do what they want to do regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless of how many times we've seen how it plays out. The stars are the product. Period. If Russell Wilson's not there and you guys are terrible, you're going to not have the same sales. They're not going to sell as many jerseys. You're not going to be as relevant. It's just the way it works. That's how it goes. Even if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you're still the biggest organization in all sports in the entire world. If you're not winning, you are not relevant.
It's amazing to me that people don't get that. I mean, bottom line is, I only watch HBO for 2 people I like. HBO's on all day. When Bill Maher's on, I watch his show 30 times a year. I like John Oliver. I don't watch HBO 90% of it. Why? I don't watch for the logo. I watch for the people. 100%. I literally I watch Paramount, that company, for one thing, Yellowstone with Kevin Costner. Otherwise, I never turn the channel on. That is the only reason I watch.
Because it's entertainment. There are certain things we have to pay attention to, whether we are interested or fond of the individuals or not. Like the government, for example, or our families, right? There's certain things that we cannot opt out of. Entertainment is a choice. So that's why I get upset when people are talking about like fans not being good fans. People work very hard to make money, to enjoy their life. They want to spend their money on a product they enjoy. Now, some people like suffering, they choose bad teams and they just like going through that. But this is how this whole thing works. It's the stars. The stars are the product. Yes, you provide the platform, but if a star wants something, it's as easy as letting him sit in a room while you guys talk about draft picks. Who cares?
Listen, it'd be one thing if a star player did drugs or was subversive or was like a bad locker room guy. Aaron Rodgers wants a heads up on a couple of things. Give it to him.
Don't fire his quarterback coach without telling him.
Yeah, remember that one?
You really, when it comes down to it, these splits generally come down to the simple things. People always think it's like some big explosive thing. It's always a slow drip. It's a slow drip, and then there's just one too many drips, and the cup runneth over.
You're right. The Packers fired Aaron's quarterback coach and didn't give him a heads up.
When you say that out loud, doesn't that sound ridiculous? It just sounds ridiculous. Like what? It's like anything else in life, in relationships, right? You make a huge decision and don't tell your partner. And your partner's like, it would have taken you all of 15 seconds to send me a text message, heads up. You couldn't even send a text, an email, a phone call.
You wouldn't
tweet, DM, nothing.
Aaron Rodgers found out about it on Twitter.
And yet we look at it, well, I don't look at it, but people will look at it as if he's being difficult. Like, no. What Deshaun Watson is going through is not Deshaun being difficult. It is a series of horrible decisions that if you just looked at it, the relationship as a mutual partnership rather than I make all the decisions.
We control you.
It makes no sense to me. It's never made any sense, and it almost always ends the same way. It's ridiculous. Give him a little space, guys. It's going to work in your favor. So the Patriots are looking to upgrade a quarterback and have been doing their homework on various options. They've reportedly had conversations regarding every potential trade target in the league. According to Jeff Howe of The Athletic, if a quarterback has been perceived to be available, the Patriots have picked up the phone. They reportedly spoke to the Lions about Matthew Stafford. We obviously had the report that he didn't want to go there. Yeah. And the Eagles about Carson Wentz, but ultimately decided the asking price for each was too high.
Okay. Yeah, so it just wasn't the perfect price for you. Okay.
That part of it, to me, is what's insane. Too high, you don't have a quarterback.
Well, no, I think you and I agree. Cam's coming back. I don't think there's any question in my mind that Cam's coming back.
Yeah, it's looking very obvious that Cam is coming back, which I have no problem with.
Listen, at this point, you have 3 or 4 quarterbacks left. You're going to have to overpay for him. The Colts don't love what they're paying Carson Wentz. They don't love it. They need a quarterback.
How often, really, truly, though, are you overpaying a quarterback?
If he wins, never.
Right. So
never.
how terrible does someone have to be for you to be overpaying?
Listen, Kirk Cousins gets heat. He made the playoffs 2 out of 3 years. You get one home playoff game, you make about $8 million a home playoff game. Take that and we'll use it against his salary.
Washington didn't want to pay him. What has Washington been doing since Kirk Cousins left?
Nonsense.
I think it's when people get crazy about how much you're giving up, or, the Eagles don't like if they gave up all those draft picks. Like, you won a Super Bowl and he contributed greatly to that. Obviously, things fell apart, and I didn't love how things ended with Carson Wentz there, and I think all the pressure's on him now. But you got the value out of him. What are you talking about overpaying? It's the most important position on the field. If you don't have a quarterback, you are not going to win in the league. So how often are you actually overpaying a quarterback? I think if you really look at it, it's not really that often.
As long as you win, you're not really overpaying for any of them.
So the Nets and Clippers game ended in controversy Sunday night. Kawhi Leonard was called for an offensive foul on James Harden. It turned out to be a game-saving play for the Nets. Harden would make both free throws and secure the 112-108 win. And after the game, Paul George was clearly frustrated that the Nets got that call.
I haven't really got into the flopping game, but it's in today's game. It's smart. You know what I mean? It's smart. They control the refs. They got the refs in their pockets. So,
oh boy.
Kudos to the guys that are great at that part of the game.
I thought it was a flop. The NBA's 2-minute report said that the foul on Kawhi at the end of the game was the correct call. I didn't agree. But
oh boy, I don't know. That's not a terrible call.
It's not a terrible call. Obviously, Harden sold it, so I don't think it was.
Come on.
It was definitely a flop. He definitely sold it.
Well, yeah, but he didn't hit the ground, so you have to fall to flop, right?
I think you can flail your arms a little bit. That contact from Kawhi did not trigger the arm flailing.
I don't think. Let me see this James Harden again.
How does your other arm affect
it's a little over the top.
He sold it.
I'm going to defend James Harden on this.
I don't have a problem with selling. This is a part of the game now.
Yes.
Right? Like, do I love it? No. Do I think that sometimes there's a reason why they penalize you if you flop too much?
You never notice.
But if you have to, people sell pass interference calls. Like, they sell all kinds of holding. This is part of it.
Everybody said, by the way, if you look at a batter in baseball, the catcher is constantly framing the plate. You're trying to manipulate the umpire. Every sport.
Yes.
Herm Edwards once told me, they have a book on officiating crews, and Herm would be like, fellas, these guys call holding. Herm would tell me, he goes, we would say, hey, this unit, last in holding calls. You can hold today. Like, everybody knows, Kurt Schilling once told me that. He goes, I knew who I got the corners with, and I knew who I didn't.
That's being prepared.
Yeah.
There's a human element to refereeing. We don't
course.
love it. They're not machines. I don't like saying, they have the refs in their pocket and all that. Like, don't. We're talking about the refs. Like, win the game at the end of the day.
I didn't think that was a terrible flop. Most of the floppers, Dwayne Wade flopped, and Kobe and LeBron, and it's a lot of the smart guys. A lot of the veteran guys flop.
I don't love the egregious flops. Selling a foul and flopping, or there's the gray area there. But I don't like him calling out the refs in that spot and saying that
you can't.
They control the refs.
How much did he get fined? You can't say that.
I don't know if he got fined, but you're not supposed to.
The refs are in their pocket is not
usually frowned on. Yeah.
All right, Joy, the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd
Let's be honest.
News.
I flop every day in my life. I verbally flop. Like, my wife says something I agree with, and I act more outraged than I am to get my way. I'll be like, come on! And then she backs off, and then I get my way.
You're manipulating.
What I'm saying is I verbally flop all the time. A boss comes down. Whoa! They back off, and I get what I want. Isn't life flopping? You verbally flop. You physically flop.
I think people exaggerate things all the time. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a little bit of tactic to maneuvering your way through life. I mean, that's a game.
Yeah.
But to your point, it exists in every sport. So I do think people get a little bit crazy about exaggerating fouls. I didn't love it, and I thought it was definitely a flop, but it is part of the game.
Don't we all have a different personality for different people?
You have to switch it up
You ever
sometimes.
walk into a boss? Hey, Boss-a-Rooney, how was your weekend?
Do not call them Boss-a-Roonies.
Nobody cares. I mean, you couldn't care less what he did for the weekend. And then you yell at your producer.
I don't yell at my producers.
That's why
either.
Goulet left me. He's just screaming them all day. All right, coming up next, I already have 5 NFL standings predictions, and I'd almost bet anything on them. And I'll tell you why. I do this throughout the course of the offseason next. If you never said Boss-a-Rooney?
I don't call it that.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
The Death and Life of Kobe Bryant is a limited series podcast that looks back at the investigation of the crash a year ago that killed the basketball superstar, his daughter, and 7 others.
LA County Fire, 83.
Helicopter crashed into a mountain. We heard it, and now I'm looking at the flames.
The Death and Life of Kobe Bryant takes a different look at one of the biggest tragedies of 2020.
NBA star Kobe Bryant was on board that helicopter.
Kobe Bryant died earlier this afternoon in Los Angeles in a helicopter crash. News reports are just coming in.
The Death and Life of Kobe Bryant includes exclusive content and a look at the legacy number 24 leaves behind.
He never wanted to rest on the laurels of, hey, I'm just a sports star. Anything that he was going to put his name to, anything he was going to help with, he and Vanessa were going to give it their all.
Listen to The Death and Life of Kobe Bryant on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tired of cooking at home? Change it up without getting up. Order Jersey Mike's through their app for no contact delivery or no contact at the door pickup. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above. So Dan Campbell, I think it was a weird year in the NFL. Really good coaching opportunities, really good candidates, really bad hires. Urban Meyer, I think, is probably the one surefire coach, and he's already had some stumbles down in Jacksonville. But Dan Campbell of Detroit, I think, is a miss. Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia is a miss. David Culley in Houston. They were so embarrassed by that hire. His opening press conference, they buried it on a Friday afternoon. They didn't even want you to hear it or see it. That's what companies do when they're trying to hide bad news. I think Nick Sirianni and David Culley will both be gone within a year. That's now acceptable in the NFL. Freddie Kitchens, Steve Wilkes in Arizona. You know, you do it. You do it with quarterbacks and coaches now. Oops, made a mistake. Let's move on. Dan Campbell had a quote yesterday, which is at best regrettable. He said, listen, I said this to Chris Spielman the other day. I was like, I kind of love the fact we're only known as meatheads. I'm a meathead. I have limited brain capacity. I like that. I'm good with that. You know what I mean? I have zero problem with it. Okay, not great. I have limited brain capacity. Well, so does Elon Musk. I mean, we all use about 10% of our brains, but you'd want to have a bigger brain than a smaller brain. I think that is it's self-evident. That's not a great quote. But it's interesting because during the off season, when I make predictions, I like to get them right. I don't want to remind you, but since it's out there, I did go 7 for 7 in the AFC predicting playoff teams. 7 for 7. I'm like Copperfield over here, okay? So, but I start filling out during the off season. I'll see things or hear things, and I'll just, in my little magic board in my head, I'll put first place, last place, whatever. I've already made 5 predictions for next year. So, here's the good news. AFC East, Buffalo is going to win the division. I feel stronger about that than I do any prediction in the NFL. I think the Bucs will win the NFC South. I think the Lions, Texans, Eagles all finish dead last. You cannot win with a coach that's over his skis. So let's start with the Bills. The Jets and Miami are still rebuilding, and New England doesn't have the firepower. My takeaway is once Brian Daboll didn't get a job and came back, you're looking at a 12-4, 13-3 football team. They're going to upgrade the offensive line, get a pass rusher in the draft. Buffalo's really close to being great. They're good right now. They're not great because they have a very sporadic pass rush. Tampa Bay, second year, Arians and Brady. They'll probably have to let like a Chris Godwin go or, somebody let go. But Carolina's rebuilding. The Saints now officially are kind of rebuilding with cap space hell. I'd probably go Atlanta second right now, but they have a new coach. So I'm going to go Brady wins the NFC South. But Detroit, Texans, Philadelphia, those are last place teams. Like there's no getting over that. There's no controversy here. You can't win in this league when you are over your skis as a head coach. And it's interesting. Last year at this time, we all thought Cleveland and Washington were a mess. They both made the playoffs because they got the coach right. Ron Rivera and Kevin Stefanski. Miami 2 years ago. Joey covered them for years. They were chaotic. It was a shipwreck. They were constantly in flux. They got Brian Flores, and like 6 games into his Miami tenure, you're like, oh, they got the right coach. You can't miss on the coach. You just can't. You don't have to hire Belichick, but the good news for like a Detroit or a Houston or a Philly is the current NFL culture is you can move off a quarterback and you can move off a coach in a year. It used to be that was just a sign you failed dramatically, and like I think people are over it. I mean, Arizona's like, we got the wrong coach, we got the wrong quarterback. Nobody's complaining now. Cleveland, hey, we whiffed on the coach. Nobody's complaining. Everybody likes Stefanski. So, and despite what fans may push back at, if you can't get the opening press conference right, come on now. People literally say, whoa, I mean, he was nervous. You cannot butcher the opening press conference. Go look at Nick Saban's opening press conference. It's good. Now, Belichick now can be surly, but that's what happens when you win like 6 Super Bowls. But your first press conference, you are setting a standard. You cannot be completely, utterly over your skis. We got Campbell admitting, I got limited brain capacity. We got Nick Sirianni, so nervous. And we got David Culley in Houston. The organization buried the press conference on a late Friday. Kind of tells you where you're at. Improve your diet. Improve with more protein. Butcherbox.com/herd. First, new members get 2 New York strips and a free pack of bacon. That is butcherbox.com/HERD. The highly controversial John Ritchie, former Philadelphia Eagle, who is a little bit of a rock star, came on last time he came on. Like, he told us stuff we didn't know, and within the next 2 weeks, everything he said was true. Everything he said was true. And then Antonio Daniels disagrees with me on everything, but I think he's fantastic, and he'll be joining me too. I do think I was reading that story that Joy talked about. Oh, I want to get an update. I forgot. 30 seconds left. What's the reaction to my Baker Mayfield or the Field segment?
Well, I'm not going to read the one that's inappropriate. The people are not happy with you. They'll put it that way. They're not happy. They think you are trolling everybody, which you're not. You're not. I don't allow Colin to troll.
I don't troll. I'm not a troller. Hour 3.
Enter the Fox Bet Super 6 NBA contest for a chance to win $25,000 when you pick the outcomes of 6 of today's NBA games. Download the app now and play for free for your chance to win.
Do I have to pick a game, man?
You pick the outcome of 6 of today's games.
Yeah, that's not. I don't think I could win that.
Well, somebody's going to win.
Very
difficult. Win $25,000.
I could use that.
From the Fox Bet Super 6 NBA contest.
Antonio Daniels disagrees with me on everything. That's why we bring him on the show. He does Fox Sports New Orleans, so he's a Pelican guy. He's a Zion Williamson guy who I love. I wish there were more Zion Williamsons in the league because I like guys who dunk, and I like guys who initiate contact. I like physical throwback players, and I think Zion Williamson does that, and Antonio's now joining me live. You know, it's interesting. I think Zion is a blast. I love him. I love his game. Are you a little surprised how effective he's been? I saw a stat the other day. He's shooting 66% in the month of February. That hasn't happened since Barkley in '83. Are you surprised at all by his effectiveness?
I'm not. You know, the thing is, if you go back to the beginning of last year, prior to everything going on with COVID, I was blessed to be at every practice of training camp. So the moment that Zion got there, I was blessed to be there for the entire journey. And to see how dominant that he was, not just with his own team, but in the preseason of that time, you knew that he was going to do some special things. What has surprised me, I think, more than anything, and maybe it took Stan Van Gundy getting his head coaching job, but he's unlocked something special. He's unlocked the point forward, you know, sort of like Giannis, where Zion's initiating the offense. Because the thing I didn't know that he could do a lot, I didn't realize that his basketball IQ is what it was, and his skill set with his ability to handle the basketball is what it was as well. So what we're seeing this year is a little bit different, Zion, and they're moving him all over the floor.
Yeah, no, he does initiate the offense. And, he always had great self awareness as a college star with the shoe incident. I always thought his quotes were very self aware. I wasn't that self aware at 19, 20 years old, so I like to hear you say that. So I got to be honest, James Harden, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, that just felt like tinderbox emotionally. Are you a little surprised how effective it's been?
On our SiriusXM radio show, I put Brooklyn the moment that James Harden was traded to Brooklyn to go to the finals. This is the thing. We kind of forget the era that we're in the NBA. This is a scoring era where it's extremely difficult to play legitimate defense. All of the rules favor the offensive player.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you what you do. You give me Kyrie Irving's talent. You give me Kevin Durant's talent. You give me James Harden's talent, and we'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Give me the talent first. Give me the talent first, and I'll figure out the rest later. Everybody's worrying about the wrong stuff. Well, what if this guy? What if that guy? No. Give me the talent and give me the opportunity to figure it out. Give me a guy like Joe Harris, whose skill set complements exactly what they do well. Give me a guy like James Harden, who has led this league in assists and points and three-pointers made and free throws made. Give me that guy. Give me Kevin Durant, 1-1 in NBA history at 7 foot. I'll figure the rest out later.
So you told me during the break you disagreed with me. LeBron leads the NBA in minutes, and he's 38 years old. Everybody else, it's load management, it's minute restrictions, it's my hamstrings hurt, and I'm like, can you just play? I mean, but you don't. I like LeBron's sort of Akron, Ohio mantra, which is I punch a time clock. This is what I do. I would think as an old school basketball player, you'd love that.
But the thing that we have to do, Colin, we have to readjust our goggles because we are not in the old school era anymore. And it is no longer a badge of honor. Guys don't consider it a badge of honor to play 82 games anymore. And LeBron James is not going to talk about, which he shouldn't. He's not going to talk about load management. He's not going to talk about games off. You know why? Because he knows that we will. So when it comes down to the narrative and we start talking about the MVP, right now, if you have LeBron James ahead of Joel Embiid or Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard or a lot of other guys that are on this list, what's your reasoning and rationale as to why? Because he has not missed a basketball game yet. So the thing is, he doesn't have to discuss the narrative about the amount of minutes that he's playing or the fact that he hasn't missed an NBA game yet, because he understands that when we talk about the end and have the MVP conversation, there has to be a narrative involved somewhere. So he doesn't have to discuss it because we'll discuss it for him.
So Joy and I disagreed with this earlier. Antonio Daniels joining us. The James Harden, Kawhi Leonard thing. I like floppers because I think manipulation of officiating is part of the game. And so you don't like this at all. I think most floppers are the smartest guys in sports, and sometimes it's acting. And I told Joy this. Sometimes when my wife, I got to pretend I'm outraged to get my way on stuff, and I flop. I verbally flop in my life, and I think it's very effective.
Okay, here's the thing. I don't blame the players for this because I'm assuming Joy said that she doesn't like the flopping.
She doesn't like it.
I'm with her. But here's the thing is I think it's a two-way street because a lot of times this falls on the players, where the player's job is to manipulate the officials, which is exactly what you just spoke to.
Yeah.
I'm more upset for the fact that guys continue to be rewarded for flopping, not for flopping. It's the fact that they're being rewarded for flopping. Because the thing is, once players stop getting rewarded for flopping, then the flopping will cease. But as long as guys continue to be rewarded for the flopping, it'll continue to happen. Yeah. I get it. This is called the game within the game.
Right.
Because if I can fool the officials to thinking that this was an offensive foul by Kawhi Leonard, or when LeBron James got thrown to the ground, if I can fool the officials as opposed to getting mad at James Harden right here and saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's flopping. That's what he's supposed to do. His job is to win the game. But my frustration falls on the fact that he is being rewarded for this, especially in a game that's this crucial at this point in the game.
has good stuff by you. You brought a lot of energy today. I really appreciate that. Because I didn't sleep with crap last night, and I needed energy, and you brought it. You doing okay? You feel good during all this travel and pandemic? Are you okay? How you feel?
I'm blessed, man. I am extremely blessed. I have nothing whatsoever to complain about. My family's healthy. I just wish that we can get back to some sense of normalcy. You never really realize how important fans are until the arena, until they're not there. So in New Orleans, we're starting to get fans back in the arena, and we have a exciting basketball team with Zion, with Brandon Ingram, with Lonzo Ball. So I have no complaints whatsoever. I am truly a blessed man.
Good. Well, I like watching them play, and I love Zion. And Antonio, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you again.
Always, brother. It's always good to see you. You guys stay safe.
All right. He works Fox Sports New Orleans. Great energy, doesn't he? Just pops every time he's on.
What's up? You know who it is? DJ Scream.
Big Bank checking in.
And Big Facts has officially touched down on the Black Effect and iHeartRadio. Now, Bank, you know Big Facts, it ain't for the weak-hearted, man. It ain't for the sensitive.
Big fact, big fact, big facts.
We're chopping it up about real topics, real situations, and of course, we're having them conversations with the biggest names in the culture. 21 Savage is on Big Facts. Give it up, 21 Savage, man. What's up, Savage? What's been going on with you?
When you get to a certain level, it be like, all right, you got all the cards, you got everything. How can I help my community and uplift my people? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You can have all the money in the world and still not be feel like you complete or like you did your job.
Ain't nothing bigger than Big Facts.
Nothing is bigger than Big Facts. Make sure you listen to Big Facts on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know how we coming.
Joey Taylor with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Feels like it's gonna be so long before we get to see all these storylines play out. Cause I can't wait to see what the Lions are this year. Dan Campbell obviously had a very memorable press conference when he was introduced as the Lions head coach. He got plenty of criticism for it, including on this show, and he doesn't care if people think he's a meathead. He said, I said this to Chris Spielman the other day. I was like, I love the fact that we're only known as meatheads. I'm a meathead. I have limited brain capacity. I like that people think that. I'm good with that. You know what I mean? I have zero problem with it. Look, here's my issue with this. At surface, you may think, oh, he's just saying he doesn't care what people think about him. I can get down with that. There's a value to blocking out the noise of what other people think about you. I don't think, and then there's the value of, okay, well, people are underestimating me. They think I'm stupid. There's a value to that as well, because then you have lower expectations. You can outdo them because they're underestimating you. But I don't know if that's what he's saying. I think he's just saying I don't care if people think I'm a meathead. If I act meatheadish or whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters to anybody else, but it does matter to the guys in the locker room. Yeah. Everybody is not a meathead. Everybody doesn't respond to that run through a wall stuff. And I also think that has a limited shelf life. I think at one point or another, people are tired of listening to the yelling and they just want, what's the game plan? What tangibly, what's the plan?
I don't think you have to say everything that's in your head.
No.
I mean, if I thought that, I wouldn't say it. I'm not going to name the coach, but I was talking to a football player, bright guy. And his university hired a new coach. This was about 8-10 years ago. And the coach came in to introduce himself to the players, right? And he was a smart player, and his best buddy on the team was also a smart player. And he said, we knew 5 minutes in, our coach is an idiot.
Oh, that's just, it's the worst feeling.
And he was
knowing
saying,
the person that is leading you is not competent.
And he said, he goes, all the smart guys in the room, we were all like, for the next 2 days, our coach is dumb. He goes, all the dumb players, the guys who aren't self-aware, they're like, yeah! He goes, but the smart guys in the room knew instantly, it's like, we're going to get out-coached most days in our college football conference.
I don't know if he is going to be a great coach or not. I know what he did in Miami. I wasn't into it when it was in Miami. Again, I think the rah-rah stuff only lasts for so long. Everyone around the league seems to like him and has respect for him.
Well, I wish him luck.
I'm not rooting against him in any way. I personally don't buy into that. Yeah. And I'm with you. I think that your first press conference does matter. It's not everything, but it is something. And as a head coach, it is part of your job
to sell,
to talk to the media,
and yourself.
And to talk to fans, and to talk to the guys in the locker room, and to talk to your staff. So how you speak, how you present yourself matters. If you have a bad press conference, it's not unreasonable for people to react in a negative way to it. That's part of your job. No, you don't get paid to speak, but in some ways you do get paid to present yourself. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes. He doesn't care if we think he was a meathead, though. So wide receiver Devontae Smith got passes from both Tua and Mac Jones at Alabama. He was asked to pick between the two quarterbacks at an interview at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And according to Albert Breer, the question was barely finished before Smith answered Mac Jones. He was bold and definitive about it as I heard it. So that's his opinion on those two quarterbacks, both of whom he played with. I think one thing that happens with Alabama quarterbacks is that we see a lot of them, and we see them in big moments, and if they have success, we kind of start to lean towards maybe it's not just the pieces around them. I didn't really love Tua coming out of the draft. I was way higher on Joe Burrow. Admittedly, I bought in once the Dolphins committed to him, and I am very much unsure about what he is capable of, and if it was up to me, I would trade for Deshaun Watson. I don't know what Mac Jones is. I think he has to go to a perfect situation. It's really hard to evaluate quarterbacks from a program like Alabama that is there every single year, that gets great players every single year. There's never any controversy. There's never anything to overcome. I mean, you're throwing to the Heisman winner.
Look at the video. Look at the video. The guys are 8 yards. That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen in the NFL. And I'm not saying he's not capable, and I'm not saying he didn't perform in the biggest moments. He did. But how do you evaluate? Look at that. Like, when is that happening? That's never happening. That might happen once every 6 games in the NFL that some coverage breaks down, but you're not throwing in that. You're not throwing to a wide receiver that open. And I get it doesn't happen every time, but I don't know. I'm with you. I think I don't like to pick a bust, but if I have to, I don't know. I don't know how to evaluate a player like that.
If that ball gets picked in the NFL, let's watch this one. Yeah, that's a good throw.
That's a good throw.
Yeah, let me see another one.
Again, it's not that I don't think he's incapable. I don't think he has busts written all over him. I just think it depends on where he goes. I don't think he is capable of going to the Bengals and making them relevant right away, the way that Joe Burrow did.
He's not Joe Burrow. God, no.
So Carson Wentz wore number 11 with the Eagles, but that number is already taken by Michael Pittman on the Colts. And Pittman said that you had the chance to talk about who will get the number moving forward.
He was just seeing like how like locked in I was to 11, and I told him that I was locked in, and he was like, "That's cool, bro, because I'm probably gonna switch anyway." Lots of guys with his status, like they would come in and they would like demand and stuff like that. So I just think that he's a really great dude.
He did not give it up.
Well, right now Pittman is an emerging star, and Wentz has to prove himself. I'm not giving it up either.
I actually think I was intrigued by this story because generally you're going to give up the number to the starting quarterback. And Michael Pittman didn't want to give it up. I think it's interesting. I do think it says something. I know that Michael's saying like he likes that he was cool and he wasn't difficult about it, and that he thinks that someone of his status could be. But I actually think it's something.
I don't know if I'd want to give my number up. I mean, if I'm some young hotshot comes in and looks at Derek Jeter, can I have 2? I'd be like, no. It's my number.
I mean, I just think it depends on who's asking you. If Tom Brady comes in, you got to give up number 12.
Well, what if I'm Mike Evans? I'm not giving up.
You're giving up number 12. You want to be the guy that denied Tom Brady his jersey number?
I'd be like, you're married to a super model. You have enough in life. I'm not giving you the number. That's it. Come on. I wouldn't ask for it. I think it's weird to ask for it.
Didn't Chris Godwin have?
Yeah, but Chris Godwin's their number 2 receiver.
So you do Mike Evans.
I could not. To me, I could not ask somebody to give their number up. I'm uncomfortable with that. Like, it's your number. I'm a new guy. I want to prove myself.
I don't know. I mean, that's why I think this is kind of an interesting story, because I think if it's Carson Wentz, I don't think he has the juice right now to push for that number. But, you know, if I'm Tom Brady, but everybody loves Tom Brady. It'd have to be somebody who's like, players love, like they admire him. Like that's the GOAT. I don't know. I'm probably asking for the number though.
All right. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
John Ritchie next in Philadelphia. He can be controversial. He'll fill us in on cool stuff next.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Where did we come from? Why are we here?
Is there meaning to life?
While those questions are all cool, we will not be answering those questions on our podcast.
Instead, on our show Prompt Us, we're answering your questions.
More specifically, we're responding to questions that you are asking about personal, spiritual, and professional growth. And, not to brag, but our moms think it's the best podcast ever. So listen to Prompt Us every Monday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, we'll have more information on this as it comes in. Tiger Woods got in an accident today in Los Angeles. His car rolled. He's in a hospital right now. They had to extricate him from the car. We don't know the severity of it. It happened at 7 in the morning, so Tiger Woods by himself in a car kind of rolled it up in the rolling hill estates of Palos Verdes, which is about a half hour from my house. Beautiful area, by the way. It's very hilly, a lot of topography, kind of a windy road area. We'll update you as we know more. John Ritchie played in the NFL for 7 years, now a popular talk show host in Philadelphia at WIP, and he's real popular, and he's real outspoken, and he called everything with Philadelphia, and he is now joining us live. So let's start with this. Carson Wentz got traded. They didn't waste a lot of time. Your initial reaction, John, to it was what? Shock or saw it coming?
We knew he didn't want to play in Philly anymore.
Okay.
It's being reported that at the NovaCare facility, the Eagles complex, there is a sense of like sullen, somber loss. And everyone, we as Eagle fans and followers, we recognize that, you know, you created this. This was essentially Carson saying, I'm not playing for you anymore because I don't have a chance to succeed when you've got Halfrey running the show. Halfrey is a, you know, conglomeration of Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. When Halfrey's running it, I can't succeed, so I want out of here. No one was surprised about that. The same thing happened with Doug Peterson. They expected to have him back, and then he said, wait, you know what? Until you start letting me be the coach I can be, I don't want to be here any longer. So, yeah, they brought it on themselves. We were not surprised. We had a sense of, I felt sympathy for Carson Wentz with the way he was supported. It was a horrendous offensive scheme, a horrendous offensive line, as we know, so many different assortments of guys, no one to throw to. And I think he did the right thing for his career.
Yeah. What are they going to do with the number 6 draft pick now?
Well, it's interesting. The beat guys are reporting they would not be surprised if the Eagles went quarterback again. And this comes on the heels of Howie Roseman referring to Philadelphia as a quarterback factory after he drafted Jalen Hurts last year. It sort of feels like, I don't know, conceding defeat and failure on the Hurts pick if you go first-round quarterback once again.
Yeah.
But the fact is, Jalen Hurts, while he looked promising at times, you know, especially against the Saints when he led the Eagles to a victory, there were shortcomings in his game, and no one really knows for sure if he would have looked better with a better offensive line, with better receivers, with better scheme. But the fact remains, this is a guy who was projected to be a second or a third round draft pick, and now they have an opportunity to potentially trade up to get the second overall quarterback, second overall pick in this year's draft. I'm keen on Zach Wilson. I believe Jalen Hurts has shown all the intangibles and the leadership qualities that you're looking for. I'm just not sold on him as an arm, and I think Zach Wilson has better arm talent and ability than Jalen Hurts does, while still fitting into the
modern mold of being able to hurt you with his own read.
Nick Sirianni had a pretty brutal first press conference. I could watch. I mean, Joey and I watched it one time, and I'm like, it was like somebody struggling on Jeopardy. I'm like, this is embarrassing. I can't watch it. I'm uncomfortable. What was the reaction in Philadelphia? What was the reaction?
The reaction was, you told us that you interviewed 20 different qualified candidates, and this was the best that you could find. I don't understand that. Now, a lot of people were up in arms that Deuce Staley wasn't given more of an opportunity. He's now moved on, just like Doug Peterson did, just like Carson Wentz did. Deuce Staley, the running back coach and offensive, high up assistant, asked out of town because he didn't feel like he was given the proper weight in his interview, despite the fact that his interview went well. No, I think everyone thinks Nick Sirianni is in Philly and in place because he was the most qualified candidate who would say yes to everything that Halfrey asks. That's the bottom line. No one knows if he's a good coach. Everyone hopes he is. Time will tell. But we know that he is complicit with the plan, which is let the owner let Halfrey decide on everything that takes place in that building.
By the way, Philadelphia is a very verbal town. It's a very outspoken town, and they're prideful of their teams. Is there a sense in Philly now the front office is just simply not capable of turning this thing around?
Yes, I think so. It's unabashed hatred in most corners of the fan spectrum right now, and we actually have people talking about just tossing this entire season, throwing this season like like Halfrey did week 17 of the regular season for the Eagles when they threw that game. Throw the regular season in 2021. Trade away Brandon Graham. Trade away Brandon Brooks. Just like they're unloading the big contracts right now.
Yeah.
Trade away Darius Slay. Get what you can on these older guys now, because you're 31st. You're positioned 31st in the league in terms of cap room. You're not going to be able to buy help. You can't draft help. You have to look forward to 2022 at this point. You've got Eagle fans who are saying this season is a loss. Let's cut those losses, get what we can now, and move on.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I appreciate that. Most fan bases are not willing to do that. I could make a very compelling argument. That's exactly what you should do. Okay, John Ritchie.
They're the worst team in the division. They're the worst team in the division. The division's not good.
No, I don't think there's any question right now. Former Eagle fullback, played 7 NFL seasons. He's on WIP, 94 WIP. I love having you on the show, buddy, and we will talk. We're going to talk to you before the draft as well. I appreciate that.
Sounds great, Colin. Love you. You're the greatest. Talk to you whenever you want.
All right, John Ritchie. Used to work with him at the other place. I just want to update you on the Tiger stuff. By the way, John Ritchie actually went to college with Tiger Woods. We talked about it. This morning, 7:12 in the morning, Tiger Woods in a car by himself rolled it on the border of Rolling Hills Estates and Ranchos Palos Verdes. Bizarrely, I know where that's at. It's not far from my house. I've been on that road before. The vehicle sustained major damage. Tiger was the sole occupant of the car. He was extricated from the wreck with what they call the jaws of life. That's serious. He was then transported to a local hospital by an ambulance for his injuries. The investigation's being conducted by LAPD. It's a very windy, narrow roads. Palos Verdes is almost a peninsula. It's I wouldn't say treacherous, but I've been on some roads before where, it's just thin pavement, no yellow line in the middle, and you go around a lot of blind corners.
There are a lot of photos now of the helicopter footage of the rollover, and it's rough. It looks like it is a courtesy car from the
tournament.
Yeah, there's like a label on this.
Okay.
Oh, the Genesis Invitational, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So his agent, Mark Steinberg, put out a statement. He suffered multiple leg injuries, currently in surgery. So, that's almost good news. It could have been, if it's surgery on your leg, there's a lot of other outcomes that could have been far worse.
Yeah, hopefully he's okay. There's a lot of, obviously everybody's getting information at the same time here.
Right. So listen, it's treacherous is the wrong word. It is a interesting place in Los Angeles. There's like Mulholland Drive and Palos Verdes, a lot of windy around blind corners, and there's a lot of traffic and not always the greatest signage. It's a place I try not to drive much. So good luck to Tiger Woods. 7 in the morning, taken out, surgeries now. Appreciate the update from his agent, Mark Steinberg. All right, that's where we're at today, and I think we're going to end it there. The very latest show after us. If you get new information, social media, I'm sure we'll be all over that stuff. I want to thank everybody that came by today. LeVar Arrington, Drew Bledsoe, Antonio Daniels, and John Ritchie. Joy and I will see you tomorrow.